Because you have these strong jobs, these strong careers, you have these strong presence, are all women able to do that? Where are we going wrong?
One of the things we need to do is understand what we're strong at and persevere and do that. And the things we are weaker at, we need to surround ourselves by people who make up for our weaknesses and allow us to be strong where we're strong.
Quite often we as women fall down because we think we have to be good at everything.
Yes,
and we have to be all-rounders, and I think in this instance we don't help ourselves.
But you see,
need to admit.
this is it. You just, like, she felt bad saying I'm not good. Like, it's fine. Because as women, we're brought up to believe that we have to
be good at everything.
Exactly. Be the good wife, be the good mom, do sports, have a nice wardrobe, like do the nails, do the hair, do the makeup. Sometimes I'm like, I can't. You know, like, I can't do everything.
How do you encourage other women to be the very best that they can be in the workplace?
Fear is just an illusion. It's important to do things and not be scared. Always get out of your comfort zone. The forever learning is very, very, very important, because if you don't continue learning, you become complacent, and that's when, in any role within the organization, it's when you start to fall back.
There are billions of women passing through similar experiences all around the world, and for whatever reason, we often feel like we're alone. It's time to make a point of discussing these topics from a range of viewpoints. Women in the workplace, fertility, the menopause, women's rights, social media, sexuality, body image, politics, relationships, parenting, age, and women in their role today. These conversations surpass age, race, location. They are relevant to women everywhere. Welcome to The She Word. Conversations that women rarely have, but really should. For those willing to change the world one step at a time. For those dreaming of sustainable living. For those striving to find a healthier balance. For those always believing. Browns and Viridian. Love the planet, love yourself. Welcome to The She Word, conversations that women rarely have but really should. And today's conversation is about women in the workplace. And I'm really excited because I am surrounded by three amazing powerhouse women. I've got Krystle from Mvintage, the founder of Mvintage and also the managing director. I also have Titziana, who is the general manager of one of the most amazing phenomenons, Browns, who've just taken off over the last couple of years. And I also have Liz with me, who is the CEO of Alberta, but also the vice president of the Malta Chamber. Ladies, thank you so much for being on this show. And I'm really excited to talk about women in the workplace.
It's a pleasure, Trudy, being here.
Thank you
with
for
such amazing
having us.
women.
Well, honestly, we've been talking before we recorded this show, and suddenly you've all gone a little bit silent, but I know that you've got an awful lot to say about this, because you've been talking about women and your women's roles in work and how you got to where you are. And that's where I want to start off in this conversation. And I'm going to start off with you, Liz, because I want to just find out a little bit of your background, how you got to where you are, and your story. And we're going to share this journey for each of you as we go through the show.
Luckily enough, I'm about to lose my voice, so...
Not a problem. Then we start with you first.
It won't be a long one. Basically, I started working when I was 17. I worked for 9 months with AX Group. I was a receptionist there. And my dad told me to join the family business when I was 18. I joined. At the time, we were only 5 employees. And 32 years later, we're a team of 400 with 3 companies and an office in Libya.
Well done.
And it's been a long journey. It's been a fun journey. but it takes perseverance and hard work. Nothing comes without perseverance and hard work.
So a couple of questions before we go any further. You started off with, in the family business, Alberta, which is what kind of business?
We're in the business of fire and security.
Okay. So one thing springs to mind, a question straight away. That sounds like a very kind of male environment.
Yes, absolutely. We're part of the mechanical and electrical, which obviously forms part of the construction industry. So very male-dominated environment.
So
yes.
to put this in context, a very male-dominated environment that you started with 5 employees, and now you said it's 400.
Yes, obviously not on my own. My brother is the business and have a great team as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. We're going to come back to that in just a second because so many questions just come out of that. Titziana, you are the general manager of the pharmacy phenomenon, which is Browns, which has grown literally in the last couple of years and is now everywhere across the island. What is your career journey?
So, I'm a pharmacist by profession, and that's how I joined Browns. I joined Browns when they were the company was made up of 3 pharmacies that looked very different to one another, not like we know Browns today. At the time, the shareholders of the business, 2 men, very nice men, very men with a very clear vision of what they wanted to do, and I bought into that. They wanted to create an environment with like-minded people, where people could share their ideas, share their values, and create something different. Something different in the sense that they wanted to attract people who shared a passion for customer service.
Okay.
This started 23 years ago. Unlike people's perception out there, they think Browns is a young company. The company started 23 years ago, and I joined 18 years ago. I joined a bit before the branding of the Browns chain started. And basically, we started when the 4th pharmacy was acquired. That's when the branding process started, and over the years we have been acquiring pharmacies and reinforcing the business by attracting a lot of women, because the industry conventionally attracts a lot of women, hardworking women, and I think the success of Browns is because there was always a platform for people with good intentions, hard work, to flourish.
Brilliant.
And we are here today with 24 pharmacies.
Well, you said something very interesting there, because you said you didn't think a lot of people realise you've been around for 23 years. I personally didn't know that at all.
Okay.
And I also thought it was a
of
relatively new company. We're going to come to that in a second
Yes.
as well. Krystle, your story is quite different to both of these ladies. What's your story?
Well, I had Francesca 10 years ago, because Mvintage this year is celebrating its 10th year anniversary. And when I held her in my arms, I felt like, I needed to do something with more purpose. And that is how Mvintage was created. It's all about women empowerment and trying to leave a better world for my daughter. As a company, we now have 6 stores and our online site. We're a group of 90 women, men. It's like now they call it she, because I got trained on this. They say like he, she, them, they, like whatever. I love them all like to bits. It's a family environment. I'm the lucky one to have created my own culture and inside the company, and everyone is valued for what they bring on the table basically, and nothing else.
But there's something in common between each of these stories that you've just shared. Each of these companies has been a phenomenal success, because as you mentioned, Browns has gone from 3 stores to 24. Alberta has gone from 5 employees to 400. And of course, Mvintage over the last 10 years has gone from nothing to everywhere. And every woman on the island probably wearing your jewelry, which is brilliant. I mean, it's such a fantastic legacy. It's such a fantastic story to share. But For women around Malta and far, far beyond, that's not always the case. And the statistics are that women earn less than men, 13% less than men in the same role across Europe. So this is not specific to Malta. This is absolutely everywhere. And also that women have to work 10% harder in the same role. Statistically, that again, across Europe. So we see quite a huge imbalance between men and women. How has that reflected in your own experience? And I'm going to start with you, Titziana, because you had a role, you had a position before you even joined Browns. How have you seen that in your career, and how is that now?
To be very honest, I never perceived my gender as a limitation.
Why are we working harder than our male counterparts and still getting paid less?
I think in my younger years, I never realized that there could be barriers, to be honest. But when I started my journey, my career, then you start to realize that, again, maybe being in a male-dominated environment, it does exist. It is a reality. It's the perception. You're a female, you know, I'm not technical, I didn't study, I didn't go to university. But I think as you go along, you learn to be assertive, you learn to kind of show that you know what you're doing, what you're talking about. And it's all about then the values and the ethics and proving yourself. I mean, I guess I still have to prove myself till this day, but that's not only because I'm female. It could be a male as well, you know? I mean, every day we have to work. But yes, I do think a woman has to work a little bit harder than men, you know? But that's life. And I think nowadays it's changing. And it's changing, I think, very fast. I see it in our own environment. I see when we recruit female engineers, or female technicians, and it's irrelevant if you're male or female or, as you said earlier, you know, as long as you can do the job. I mean, I think sometimes we tend to limit ourselves. We worry too much about what other people think, you know, we worry about how we'll be seen out there, you know. But I think if you're just yourself and just work and...
Do we limit ourselves, Krystle?
Trudy, I think that if I tell you that you're unable or that coffee would make you sick today, I think you'll feel sick tonight. I think that people tend to believe what once something is ingrained in your brain, you end up believing it, whether or not it is true. And I question this a lot because I see a lot of people limiting themselves. And I think I'm lucky because I was brought up by my mother, a single mother. So I never had the female and male figure at home. It was ingrained in one. So in my head, I couldn't distinguish between the two. I could never see it. So it wasn't ingrained in my head. So no one told me that coffee is going to make you sick, you know, nobody told me that there's the men role and the female role. I wasn't brought up in that. And then I have another thing. I think I'm lucky because as a character, I always was, I question everything. So I say like, is this how it's meant to be?
Me
you know,
too.
in my head.
Me too. I question everything.
So that really changes. You don't do things... Right now, we're
Not
very much,
led.
especially with my daughter, about this sheep syndrome. Like, you do things because the others are doing it. You know, like, we're in a car park in Sicily, and I know that car park is not attended to. Like, nobody goes there. We're Maltese number plate, so I believe we can't get a fine. And everybody was running to get the ticket on. I told them, no, you don't need a ticket, but just and I saw myself, just because everybody was doing it, then I felt like I had to do it. And I'm like, this is not, you know, the brain is very manipulative. Like, if you believe that something and people are pushing you there, certain things I still do, for example, but just because my mother taught us that it has to be done by the female. Like, for example, I feel that I should be the one always going home and doing the cooking. You know, now I have my partner. always
Don't
says
ask me that question.
or for example, I feel like it's my duty because I know, and I'm very conscious about how I feel about this. And I feel like I'm the one that has to do the cleaning. And I feel like, because my mother always said that, when my dad was home, her job was always to make sure the house is clean. And when he's home, he finds the house nice and clean, the kids washed, and dinner on the table. But so, automatically I feel, and I struggle. Even when my partner says like, sit down, I'll do this. I'm like, am I being a bad wife? Am I a bad partner?
Because we're conditioned. No, I just have to, before we go any further, I have to ask why you were giggling. You're either not very good at cooking.
I hate that
to cook.
space.
Takeouts.
No, we don't have takeouts, but others help in that area. Steve's very good in the kitchen as well, so he enjoys it. I don't. I do it if I have to, but it's not my favorite space. So.
I love that. It's not my favorite space. I'm taking that one. That's my line now.
Mine is used for storage purposes, my oven.
That's even better. That's even better.
I want to come round to your house, Liz, and find out what you're storing in the cooking. But that's totally defying the roles. That's saying that I'm going to break away from the traditional role of the homemaker, of the woman who does the cleaning, the cooking, and because you have these strong jobs, these strong careers, you have these strong presence, are all women able to do that? Where are we going wrong?
Obviously, if you choose not to do something, there has to be someone good in your stead, because cooking is very important, like any other important. If Chris spoke about cleaning, someone needs to do it. But I think one of the things we need to do is understand what we're strong at and persevere and do that, and the things we are weaker at, we need to surround ourselves by people who help us, who make up for our weaknesses, and allow us to be strong where we're strong. And I think, from my experience, even at work, there are things that I can't do or I don't enjoy doing because it comes less natural for me to do. But there are people who work with me, my colleagues, who are good at it. So I think we have to be good there. We need to admit our weaknesses and surround ourselves by people who can make us better, because if someone is there to offset my weakness, I obviously can do what I can do best. So
you're talking about being just absolutely honest and saying, I can't cook.
I can,
but I
don't enjoy it.
But also taking that into the workplace, and I think that's where quite often we as women fall down, because we think we have to be good at everything, and we have to be all-rounders. And I think in this instance, we don't help ourselves.
But you see, this is it. You just, like, she felt bad saying I'm not good. Like, it's fine, because as women, we're brought up to believe that we have to
be good at everything.
Exactly. Be the good wife, be the good mom, do sports, have a nice wardrobe, like do the nails, do the hair, do the makeup. Sometimes I'm like, I can't, I can't do everything. Well, how am I supposed to catch up with everything, eat healthy? Like, so people look at me and they tell me, but how do you manage? I'm like, hon, I don't. I mean, I try to do the best I can, but sometimes I've learned also to let go of I can't do everything. It's fine if the floor is a bit dirty today, because I prefer spending 2 hours with my daughter. Yeah. And to get to that point, like, really took a lot of mindset, because, like, I know how my mom used to tell, like, never leave the house, in a mess, but And I still hate doing it it's one thing is taking away from the other in the end of the day. So,
But why do we as women feel like, even though we have a full-time job, even though we have these amazing careers, we still have to be everything else? Because men don't do that. Men go home, they sit on the sofa and put on the TV. It's true. I mean, it's true, right?
I'll be very fair. My man does not think that way. I think we both agreed, we didn't verbally agree, but we both understood that there are things he's good at and there are things that I'm good at. And I think outside my relationship, I adopted that level of communication or non-verbal agreements with the people around us. And I think that's what we need to do in relationships, at work. We need to admit the things we are not good at and let others do them. And the things we're good at, we focus in doing, along the way, pulling people with us and sort of, how shall I say this? If I'm good at something and my counterpart is not good in, and I persevere and achieve that goal, the people around me would ultimately, benefit from me reaching that goal. That's what I meant to say, if I was clear enough about it.
I don't like cooking because I don't like cooking. I love to entertain, but I don't like cooking. If I have to do it, I'll do it. But it doesn't come natural to me. I'm lucky enough that mom supports me a lot, and she will always have something fresh, ready-made, and she'll call me, you have a plate of pasta ready or lasagna ready. So that's good. But I think having a good support structure and identifying that it's okay not to be good in everything. It's okay. And unfortunately, I think I've learned that.
A little too late.
A little too late. That I used to beat up myself that I don't go to the gym, or because I don't. Now I openly say I don't like cooking and I'm allergic to sports. I'm allergic to exercise, but possibly also social media has brought this on us, and I mean, like you're seeing these perfect worlds, these perfect mums, these perfect families, these perfect career women managing to.
It's
and
worrying.
Life is not like that
because it looks like everybody has the perfect life,
and it's not like that. It's not like that at all. And as you said, at the office, I mean, we complement each other. I work a lot with my brother. We both know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. We don't even need to say them out loud, so to speak. And the same with my husband, and then it just, I think you fall into a positive routine. It flows.
New Max Stack Mascara. Stack. 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 Max Stack.
You're talking about a lot of understanding there. You're talking about the three components that are completely consistent between the three ladies at this table. Is that you talked about a support network, you talked about not actually caring so much, letting go a little bit and making your priorities, saying this is my priority, this is what I'm good at, this is what I can do. And this is a whole new learning for a lot of women, a lot of people, but also a lot of women, to be able to let that go. And you also mentioned social media, which pressurizes us as women to be perfect and to be the perfect woman. Now, I often think that we as women aren't particularly helpful to each other, because I think that whole social media also comes from other women promoting themselves as really the best that she can be and being great at sports and cooking and everything like this. But I also think, and my question to you would be, is that often an occurrence in the workplace? Are women supportive of other women? Are women supportive of women who are rising up? Have you seen, let me ask you, Krystle, have you ever come across challenges because you are a woman who's succeeding with your career, but also your business? Have you ever had challenges against that?
At Mvintage?
In general.
No, throughout my life, obviously, I knew yes, I always felt, because I'm a woman, I always had to keep my place. As we always talk about us, like, because people tell me like, you women, you know, like, because God knows how much bitching there must be between you guys, because when women work together, you know, that is the environment that I'm like, you work in a man environment, like, how do you deal with man ego?
It's true.
You know, like, because we both have, so I think it's all about understanding and, you know, each other. Like, yes, maybe, you know, we're all both sensitive in different ways. You know, yes, I've had my very tough way to get to, until I got to here. I mean, and I've been looked down at because I'm a woman, just because maybe I started the business when I was 29. So people used to, I've had meetings where they would call my ex-husband and say, listen, you mind if we have a one-to-one? I thought, enough. I'm like, why would somebody call my husband and say, let's have a discussion? Like, we just got to the office back from the meeting, you know, like, I've had people not looking at me for an hour meeting just because I'm female, you know, like, so
I've had that too, many times.
You have? And you're in a more of a male environment
I've had that.
than Krystle is.
But you know what, nowadays, which possibly is wrong, I understand it, and I actually put my head around it, because I know I am woman, so like sometimes it can happen that you're talking to men, and you know, like, you have to respect the fact. I don't see it as something nowadays. I think I've gone through so much. Like, even unfortunately, I've had men I recruited inside the company who didn't respect me because I was female, because it doesn't even okay. I know, and I used to understand that there was this mental blockage. And sometimes, you know, we recruit people, even like we are very multicultural now. And sometimes I recruit people. Recently, for example, I said, like, listen, are you sure? Did you get that person here to see that here it's, you know, it's multicultural, female, transgender, whatever. Are you sure that he's ready to accept it? As long as, you know, because I always tell them, here, my office, we have an open office policy. I'm very much down to earth. I speak to everyone at the office and we can discuss anything. Like, and it's very, like, if something makes sense, you know, we don't need to, you know, there's no bureaucracy to any decision that needs to be done. It makes sense. Even if it breaks all the protocols and how things have always been done. We encourage people to think out of the box and think differently. One thing we could never negotiate inside the company was the company culture. That is not unnegotiable. Don't come in here like if you don't feel, and that was really tough when we were growing. And I feel like 4 years ago, especially, that was such a big struggle for me because I was being pushed into trying to change the culture, you know, like simple things. If, for example, the bin is full, get up and throw it in the bigger bin, you know, like, who cares? Like, we put up the sleeves and do what needs to be done as long as we keep this company going. Like, no, that's not my job. So, you know, you see different cultures, and this is a small thing I'm mentioning, but it remained in my head because I see how people are ingrained with certain beliefs, you know, like.
Liz, does that come, your environment is even more male oriented. Is that something that you see in yours? Do you see that women are in your company are being sort of more pushed into a gender narrative than they should be?
I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. You know, I mean, when you set the culture right from the top, as you know, as Krystle said earlier, then even the men will have to accept it. And then once again, it's no longer about men and women, even at recruitment. And I think the most important thing is also at an HR level. I mean, it's made very clear about the values, about the ethics, about our cultures, that culture is non-negotiable, whether it's male, whether it's female. I mean, even when they talk about the gender, I mean, kind of the pay gap, recently I asked our HR, I told her, they're all equally paid, all engineers, yes. She told me, why are you asking? I told her, because I hear all these kind of stories that women are not paid. And I worry, I don't want that to be in Alberta and maybe it's happening and I don't know it's happening, you know, because obviously now we have managers who are leading their own teams. I think it's important, and the bigger you grow as a company, I think you have to be the guardian of the brand and the guardian of the culture, and also ensuring that the women are getting
Are being fairly treated.
But that also goes for the men.
Exactly.
For me, I don't discriminate.
Not a policy specific for women.
Exactly.
I think
For me,
fairness.
it's not. For me, it's all about the fairness in the end, you know?
I think by talking about it, I'm actually saying, like, making an emphasis that we are both on equal pedestals. I don't feel like it inhibits us more, because all of a sudden,
Exactly.
there you said you saw the fee, a
Yes,
seed,
yes.
You know? I remember the first time I was sitting on a table and we were discussing this thing about female, male, and how we were differently paid, and I'm like, am I understanding well? I'm like, because I didn't even.
Yes.
Like
then-
different
yes.
reality.
I didn't even care. To me, that I could be less of a you know, or I
Exactly.
need enough I need some, you know, for example, the politics. I couldn't understand it, that we need, you know, help to be up. I mean, because we have such amazing qualities. I mean, and I see to myself, like, we're capable of multitasking, handling the home, the kids, the work, and come up with, we're so hands-on as women. Like, why?
In fact, I agree that if you give women the environment to flourish, you mentioned the quotas earlier. At the Malta Chamber, our president is female, our CEO is female, I'm the vice president, and it's traditionally known as a male-dominated environment, you know, but it just happened naturally, you know, no one kind of, and again, we were grateful because with the support of men as well, you know, because there are elections which are held at the chamber, you don't just, so yes, I
But
mean.
we still have these statistics, and these statistics are as relevant locally as they are European-wide, globally-wide. So there must still be, and whilst we've got three amazing, powerful women who are all saying the same thing at the table, let me ask you, Titziana, why then are we still seeing that women are disadvantaged in the workplace, and what on earth do we do about it? Practical terms, what do we do?
I think the problem needs to be addressed from different facets. I think we need to start from education. One of the things that the school does, I think, it's that it's a non-issue to be surrounded by men, girls, boys from a very young age. I think they grow up accepting to be surrounded by women, by girls. So growing up later in life, it's not like in my days, I went to a school. I wasn't exposed to co-education. So when I was 16 and I went sixth form, I was like, wow, okay. I'm sure boys felt the same way.
There's
you know?
boys! I'm
So it's like,
boys!
we needed to learn things fast, how to behave, how to be. And I think that won't be a challenge for my children going forward.
Although, Titziana, sorry, but for example, because our kids go to the same school, like, for example, what sometimes worries me, like, for example, boys have to do football and girls have to do ballet,
But they have the option.
which is girls
They
doing
can do
football.
football and
My
boys
daughter,
can do
yes,
ballet.
my daughter does football now because she doesn't like ballet, and I'm the type, I'm very much empower her to do whatever she wants to do, but she's not very much, like, people, it's not the norm at school, and people like, oh, you're doing football, like, you know, she feels a bit of peer pressure because she's not doing ballet like the other girls, you know. Maybe there should be a third option, for example, do basketball as well. So there are a lot of boys who don't like football.
That's true.
But what do? They do ballet.
Yes,
And it's
we're-
important, I think, as much as we're trying to empower girls and showing them, like, whatever, you know, it's you are on equal terms as boys. I think we should, sometimes it's even harder to train the boys that girls are on your same terms as well.
It's the unconscious bias in a way.
My
And-
friend has a boy and a girl, and now I tell me that I find it so much harder to teach him to respect girls than I find it to empower her. Because nowadays I think the next generation, and I can see it from the Gen Zs, they're so different to us. Like sometimes I think, did we just overdo it with empowering them? Because they're so overconfident that it's even scary in other ways, you know.
But would that suggest that we're going to then see a natural transition from women women feeling disadvantaged to women being incredibly empowered? And is that going to happen here in Malta?
I think the change is happening.
That's fantastic.
I think the change is happening. I mean, the fact that the three of us here are talking about we're in leadership positions, we're in positions where we can enact change, and we are stating, the three of us, that we don't see this imbalance at our workplace, right? I think something's happening. Something good is happening.
Something good must be happening.
90% of my colleagues are women.
But
and they're paid.
But only 5% of CEOs locally and throughout Europe are women. So the workforce might be women, but the positions of management and decision making aren't women.
In my case, top managers, there are more women than men.
Well, that's good to hear. But if the statistic is that it's only 5% outside of your industry, how do we change that? Because we can see that something is changing, but it's going to take quite a while for those Gen whichever.
Yes. And to be honest, because we are very much now, because we build our own cultures, and we're lucky to be, through hard work, obviously, but today we're sitting in a situation where the culture is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I've recently approached some companies to collaborate together, you know, to talk more about women empowerment and uplifting women and changing more this. And I was impressed at the friction I got. And I found it really...
Friction towards you?
No,
or
not me personally. Like, against this, you know, like they didn't want to be associated to this. And I was like, okay, at least I know that what I'm doing, I'm not doing for nothing. Like there is a core, like it reminds me of how much work still needs to be done. And I do agree that there are a lot of environments where I see women not in management places, not being able to go up the scale because they're seen as, she'll have kids. And, you know, we don't invest in a woman that's going to have kids because then she's going to leave the workplace.
The statistics that you are talking about come about because they wait until the kids can go to school. I hear women who refuse to send their kids to childcare because I want to bring up the kid.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
But they obviously, in the meantime, the world goes on. Mm-hmm. Opportunities happen.
Experience counts.
And experience counts because we're all here trying to run a sustainable business.
It's important also that financially.
You need people that
independent,
you know, have invested in themselves professionally and personally. Now, when women stop for a while, that investment, they chose to shelf that investment.
But isn't that the age-old, has been around forever and is probably never going to change, that women are the gender that are able to give birth, therefore probably more likely to be a homemaker and to be a parent in that role of raising their children. So is that not a case of that's always going to be an issue? So really, why are we opening this discussion? And should women be as empowered as men anyway? Being devil's advocate for a second.
No, I disagree. For one, I made use of childcare services. There was a time when my parents were very, very supportive of me being busy at work, and they took care of my children until my mother fell ill and could not do that any longer. Maybe that was unfair from my end, because you don't expect our parents to be fit to take care of our kids for all that time whilst we're at work. But sometimes the structures or the support around us were limiting. Today, there's childcare, and I think it's one of the greatest things that has happened to women and to society in general. And I think we need more of these initiatives. I think as society has to push for more of these initiatives.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a second. I'm going to direct this at you, Liz, for your opinion on this, because as Titziana's just mentioned about that family structure and the role of a parent and so on, and we talked to, you've just mentioned about childcare. So the alternative to a woman staying at home bringing up the child is to put the child in childcare. Why is it not then that the husband and the wife, or the two persons in that relationship, discuss that maybe it's more appropriate for the woman to go back to work and the father to bring up the children?
I think it is changing. I mean, I see it in Alberta. We have quite a few that either the husband has taken a step back, or, as you said, like childcare, but I think we have to accept that in life we can't have it all. I think there are trade-offs, and I think if someone wants to achieve this perfect world of being able to do everything to perfection, I don't know, maybe in my old age I've realized that it doesn't happen, and I don't have kids, and I barely manage, I barely find time to wash my hair, and so I can't even begin to imagine, like with 2 kids, with 3 kids, and school, and when they're sick. But I think it should not stop anyone from growing and the forever learning. Like, I joined the Chamber because I felt that I was in the Alberta box. I never went to university. I studied in my later years. I had done a course by correspondence, and I felt that I needed to widen a bit. For me, that was my way of keeping my job and learning, because at the Chamber you're exposed to so many different challenges. And if it's one thing that I suggest that to the younger women is network with older, with younger, different sectors. Don't be scared to talk to different people, to listen to what other people, even people who have a completely different opinion. They'll always teach you something, even if you don't agree with that same opinion. But then, yes, it's sacrifices. Even I had my sacrifices in my younger years. I had friends who were like holidays and being on the beach, and I was at the office till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did I want to do it? I didn't choose my career, but I loved what I did. Yes. I
followed a similar path. I had kids late in life because I wanted to focus on building my career.
And I don't even look at from my end that I wasn't even building my career. I loved what I did, and I loved it. It's the passion of the work that I do.
Seeing you 3 ladies doing so well in your chosen path, this is what you've decided to do, that you've chosen to be CEO of Alberta, you've chosen to lead teams and the company over at Browns, and you've chosen to set up your own business. Now, notwithstanding that example, just that example in itself is very motivating and empowering. But what do we say to young women? And it doesn't even have to be young women, but what would you say to women right now to empower them to be the very best that they can be in the workplace? For you, Krystle, first of all.
My advice would be not to be so hard on themselves, and do follow basically their heart, do things they're passionate about, because things that you're passionate about come much easier. As Liz was saying, she didn't feel, when my friends were at the beach, when I was at work, when my friends were at the gym, I was at work, when my friends were at the park with their kids, I was at work. When they were, I tried to juggle it. When possibly my friends were sleeping, I was still at work.
Would you change it?
No. Because I feel that was my journey, and this is my journey. This is the journey I chose. This is the journey I would choose over and over again. And I feel that everybody has his own purpose in life, And I always respect everybody around me. I respect people, in the women and men and anyone with different careers, with different path choices, because everybody is important. As I said, like, everybody in the company has strengths and weaknesses. Everybody in life has a different function, and we all need to find our purpose. And I think that is what drives us forward. This is what drives us to be happy. It's all about being happy in life. Now, it can be a simple thing, from the simplest of things. And once you're happy, you deliver kindness, and you deliver and finding the happiness for yourself before making your mother happy, your sister happy, your husband happy, your daughter happy. Because once you're happy, then you can make everybody around you happy. And that, unfortunately, took me a very long time to figure out.
Titziana, to you, we spend a lot of time at work. You've just mentioned that you've been at work when other people around you were off doing whatever they were doing at the beach and so on. So you've invested a lot of time into your career. What would you say to any other woman to empower her to be the best that she can be in that workplace, which may take more time than they expected and be as a sacrifice for other parts of their lives?
For me, it worked. I enjoyed working hard. I also spent time investing in my education, which I think was key in my advancement at work. I recently completed a master's.
Congratulations.
When my youngest was 6 months, and I needed to write a thesis. I was tight on my deadline, and I said, I have 2 months to go. And I said, okay, not to take time away from my family. I used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and write until 6 because then I had to go to work. It wasn't easy, but in reality, I chose my goals and I gave myself no choice. I needed to work very hard for them. So the advice I give to people is, depending on the goals you set for yourself, and this is where depending on the goals you set for yourself, you would need to understand how hard you need to work towards those goals. Now, if you don't want to set yourself goals, you were talking about the young generations. Maybe they want to travel, they don't want to work hard, they want a good work-life balance. That's okay. But then we cannot complain later in life because those people who stayed up at night, woke up early, or did not do this and that are in a fairer place.
You ever felt like you missed out though?
No, I always I slept little. So that's how I made up for, I'm...
Liz, for you, for women, how you're in a fantastic position. You're CEO of a 400 plus employee company. You're in a male environment. How do you encourage other women to be the very best that they can be in the workplace?
Fear is just an illusion. It's important to do things and not be scared. Always get out of your comfort zone. The forever learning is very, very, very important, because if you don't continue learning, you become complacent, and that's when, in any role within the organization, it's when you start to fall back. I'm a firm believer in doing things the ethical way and values. You might not see it at the time. We live in a world where we're constantly battling, the contracting world, and I think in the end it always pays off to be ethical. I mean, you might not see it at the time. You might see it in, a few years, but
So
doing
true.
the right thing even when no one is looking, I think, is very
Feels
important.
good. Feels good.
It's important.
Being fair.
And being fair, and
Even how we treat people.
yes,
Being
it's all
fair. Because being fair you never fail.
Understanding and kindness.
Ladies, you are an incredible example. I am thrilled that you are here on the show. I would love this show to be about empowering women to see the best that they can be and strive for it and know that they can get there. So thank you so much for setting that example for us.
My morning starts here.
with an experience that's unforgettable. A precise roast and a generous crema. Taste the unforgettable Nespresso.